Alright, let's finish our discussion on absolute value equations and inequalities. So we got done talking about equations in the last video, so now we're going to go into inequalities in this video. Alright, so same concept applies. I'm going to make two equations. So I'm still going to do 3x minus 4 is less than or equal to 8. I'm still going to do 3x minus 4, and the 8 is still going to become a negative 8. But when dealing with inequalities, when we change this to a negative, we have to then flip the inequality. So this less than sign will then become a greater than or equal to sign. That's the only thing that's different between what we were doing in the equations and what we're doing in inequalities. Alright, so here we go. So now we're going to solve it. So the inverse, get rid of my constant first. So the inverse of subtracting 4 is adding 4. So 8 plus 4 is going to give me 12. And then I'm going to divide by 3. That gives me x is less than or equal to 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Now do the same thing over here. I'm going to add 4. X is going to be greater than or equal to negative 8 plus 4, which is negative 4, and then divide by 3. So in this case, x is greater than or equal to negative 4/3. So if you don't know, you can type that in your calculator, but it's approximately negative 1.3 repeating. Alright, so when I deal with x is less than or equal to 4, I'm going to come over here to 4. So let's say this is 0. So this is negative 1, negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to 4. It has a line underneath it, so it gets a closed circle. And I see it's pointing to the left. I come over here and I do negative 1.3, which is going to be about right here. It's a closed circle because of the line underneath it, and I see it's pointing to the right. So you'll see, because it's a less than sign, I'm going to shade in between my two numbers. Alright, so let's do B, or you could try it yourself. I'm now going to set both equations. So I'll do 7 minus x is less than or equal to 3, and 7 minus x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Don't forget to flip the inequality and change the sign. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of my constant first, so I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. That goes away. I'm going to drop down my negative x. It's less than or equal to, so 3 minus 7 gives me negative 4. Do the same thing over here, so I'm going to subtract 7. Drop down my negative x. Negative 3 minus 7 gives me negative 10. And you'll see this has a negative. To change the negative, all I got to do is switch both of the signs. So these two negatives become both positive. But when I do that, because I'm switching it, or simply multiplying both sides by negative 1, I have to then flip the inequality again. Right? Same thing over here. I change both of them to positives, and then I flip the inequality back to a less than sign. Alright, so then I want to work it out. So let's see. So this would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at 4, it's going to get a closed circle because of the line underneath it, and it's pointing to the right. At 10, it's going to get a closed circle because the line underneath it, and it's pointing to the right. So you'll see once again that I'm just going to shade in between the two numbers because it is a less than inequality. Alright, so let's look at the next one. Alright, so again here, I'm going to get rid of my constant. So again, I have to isolate my absolute value before I can do anything. So I'm going to get rid of my constant first by subtracting 2. So I got 1/4 x minus absolute value of x minus 3. It's going to be less than negative 1. And now I'm ready to get rid of my coefficient, so now I'm going to divide by 1/4. It goes away, so now I have the absolute value of x minus 3 is less than, well, let's figure out what that is. So it's going to be -1 divided by, open parentheses when I'm dealing with a fraction, so that's going to be 1 divided by 4, and I see that's -4. Now I'm ready to form both of my equations. So now I have x minus 3 is less than -4, and x minus 3 is greater than 4. And changing the sign and changing the inequality. And then to get rid of my constant, all I have to do is just add 3. So that gives me less than -1. And this gives me greater than 7. Alright, so I see. I'm going to roughly say this is 7, and roughly this is -1. A little roughly. Alright, so -1 is going to be an open circle, and I see it's actually pointing to the left. And I see 7 is an open circle, and it's pointing to the right. So here we actually see they're actually going in 2 different directions, but it's still a less than sign. So there are situations where it's not permanently going to be just fill in the middle. Sometimes it will go in that direction. That's why you have to graph it and see exactly what it's doing. So there you go. Alright, so let's look at some more examples. Alright, so it says solve and graph the solution. So I'm going to form both of my equations. That gives me 5x plus 10 is greater than 15. And 5x plus 10 is less than -15. Alright, to get rid of my constant, I need to subtract 10. (15 minus 10 gives me 5. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. That gives me x is greater than 1. We can do the same thing over here. So subtract 10. Gives me -25. Then divide by 5. I see x is less than -5. Right, so let's do the work. So let's say this is -5 here. This will be 1 here. So that 1 is going to be an open circle pointed to the right. And -5 is going to be an open circle pointed to the left. So there's my shade. Alright, so without solving x minus 3 greater than or equal to 2, describe the graph of the solution. Alright, so let's see what you came up with. So, the inequality is greater than or equal to, so the graph of the solution set will include 2 points and the shaded regions will extend left and right infinitely. Alright, so again, this goes back to the definition we saw in the first video about what greater than or equal to signs should look like. This is what it should do. So what we're going to do is we're going to write each compound inequality as an absolute value inequality. And so the way we're going to do this is take the difference between what the highest number is and the smallest number. So I'm going to take 2.1 minus 1.6. Let's see what that is. That gives me 0.5. So what we're going to do is you're going to find the average, let's put this in order, the average sum. So that's what we just did. So we did 2.1. Okay. Oh. So we're going to take the average sum. So that's going to, we got to add them first. So that's 1.6 plus 2.1. And let's see what that gives us. It gives us 3.7. Alright. And then because we're doing the average sum, we got to divide that by 2. And 3.7 divided by 2 gives me 1.85. So, and we're going to do the same thing with the difference as well. We kind of got our head of ourselves, so we know it's 0.5. Divided by 2 gives me 0.25. So what this tells us, this right here is the middle. And this right here is how far the middle is from it. So, how far? Yeah, the distance from the middle. That's it. Okay, so if we make a number line here, I know my middle is going to be 1.85. And if I want to go figure out what this point is, I'm going to add 0.25. And if I want to know what this point is, I'm going to subtract 0.25. So let's do that. So 1.85 minus 0.25 gives us 1.6. And 1.85 plus 0.25 will give us 2.1. So those are actually the numbers that we started with, so we know we did it correctly. So therefore we know the absolute value then is going to be simply x minus 1.85 it's got to be less than or equal to 0.25. Alright. So let's try to do this one. Or you try to. Alright, so let's see what you come up with. So 140 plus 230 divided by 2 plus 140 plus 230 and then we divide that by 2, we get 185. And then we do the same thing. So now it's 230 minus 140 divided by 2. Which gives us 45. So on my number line, in the middle is 185. Check my work. I should go plus 45. That should take me to 230, which it does. And then subtract 45 should take me to 140, which it does. Therefore, my answer is simply just T minus 185 is less than or equal to 45. Alright. So example 6. Write an absolute value equation or inequality to describe each graph. Well, using what we just did, I can say, all right, so this is -4 to 3. So I can say, all right, so what's -4 plus 3? I know that's going to be -1 divided by 2 is -0.5. So I already know I'm going to have an absolute value of x minus -0.5, which become positive. Let me write that out so you can see what's going on. Alright, so again, that's going to be x, absolute value of x minus -0.5. We already learned that's where it goes. It's going to be less than or equal to, alright, if we subtract the 2, so -4 minus 3, which is -7 divided by 2, which is -3.5. So that's what goes here. So if we dress it up, okay, this right here will be a positive. And because absolute value is always dealing with positive distance, this -3.5 is really a positive 3.5 because that's all you care about. You don't actually care about the actual sign. Alright, so let's see if we can do this one. Again, we're just going to look here and here. So that's going to be 4 plus 10, which is 14, divided by 2, which is 7. So I know it's going to be the absolute value of x minus 7. But because it's going in opposite directions, instead of a less than sign, we know it's going to be the greater than or equal sign. And then I can do 10 minus 4, which is 6, divided by 2, which is 3. So 3 will go there. Alright, last question. Oh, no, not last. Almost last. So let's talk about real-world inequalities. The meteorologists predicted the 4th of July temperature would be within 4 degrees of 92. Let D represent the degrees for days. So here we go. Figure that out. 92 goes in the dead middle. And within 4 degrees, so if I go plus 4, that puts me at 96. And if I go minus 4, that puts me at 88. So that just means that's the absolute value of D, that's what it represents, minus my middle, which is 92, has to be less than or equal to, and that's the in this range of 4. Easy peasy, right? Alright, now last one. So carpenters take their morning break no earlier than 10 a.m. and no later than 11:30. So I'm going to let B represent the time the workers take their break. So here we go. I know that this right here is going to be 10 a.m. and I know this right here is going to be 11:30, which we'll say 11.5. Alright, so what we can do to figure out the middle, say 11.5 plus 10 is equal to 21.5 divided by 2, which is, let's see, 21.5 divided by 2 gives me 10.75. That makes that the middle. Alright? And then to figure out the deviation there, all we got to do is 11.5 minus 10, which is 1.5 divided by 2, which gives me 0.75. So therefore my equation is the absolute value of B minus my middle of 10.75 is going to be less than or equal to the distance it is, which is 0.75. Alright, so make sure you get all your notes in. Make sure you also post in the discussion board a question or comment of something you've learned in this unit. And then I will see you in class tomorrow.